Why were her close family members dying mysteriously? Stick to the very end of this story to find out. So back in the year 1947, in the state of Georgia, was one 22-year-old Anjette Lyles. So Anjette was a mother of two and was also married to a man called Ben Lyles. So Ben and Anjette used to run a very successful restaurant which attracted very high-end people in that town, the likes of doctors, pilots, lawyers, and very prominent businessmen. So one day, Anjette woke up to go to work, only to get a shock of her life because she found out Ben had sold the restaurant without consulting her. So Ben sold the restaurant because he had so much debt that had accumulated over time. His health was failing, and it said that he also had a gambling and a drinking problem. So a few weeks later, after Ben had sold the restaurant, his health went from bad to worse because he started having very bad nosebleeds, which led him to be admitted in hospital. But now the doctors couldn't find out exactly what was causing all this, and eventually, in 1952, Ben died. So Ben had a life insurance policy, and the beneficiary was Anjette. So immediately Anjette got that money, she bought back the restaurant, and it said that it did even better than before. 3 years later, Anjette started dating again, this time round a pilot called Joe. So they would only date for a very short time. Then they got married and moved in together. 3 months later, Joe came down with a very high fever and a very painful skin rash, which also led him to be admitted in hospital. But Joe only got worse and worse, and eventually in December of 1955, Joe died. So the sole beneficiary of his life insurance money was Anjette, and this time round, she bought a car and a house. But now what was shocking people was that even with the death of her second husband, Anjette did not show any emotions. She was not the grieving widow. So after Anjette bought a house, her first mother-in-law, called Julia, who was Ben's mother, moved in with her because she said she wanted to be near her grandchildren. So one day as Anjette was going through Julia's stuff, she found a bank book and she saw that Julia had a lot of savings in the bank, and immediately she started forcing her to write a will, but Julia refused. Few weeks later, Julia's body started swelling, and it got so bad she also had to be admitted. But even with her, the doctors couldn't exactly figure out what was causing her illness, and eventually Julia also died. So it wasn't long after Julia's death when Anjette's firstborn daughter, Marcia, also started showing signs of sickness. She started vomiting badly and having very bad hallucinations, leading to her being hospitalized. And after a very long time in hospital, Marcia also died. And even after Marcia's death, Anjette still didn't show any signs of a grieving mother. And that's why now the police decided to investigate why her close family members were dying mysteriously. So they ordered an autopsy to be done on Marcia. And after the autopsy is done, it was discovered that Marcia had died of arsenic poisoning. So arsenic is a very poisonous chemical used to make pesticides, and it's also used as a wood preservative. And upon searching her house, police discovered some ant killer bottles which contained arsenic. And that's why now they decided to investigate further by exhuming her two dead husbands and her mother-in-law, where they found traces of arsenic in their system. And immediately, Anjette is arrested and convicted of murder because it was found that She was poisoning all these family members. So Anjette is sentenced to death, but she appeals her case on the grounds of insanity. Anjette herself claimed that she was insane. So what the court did, they ordered an examination to be done on her by a doctor and a psychiatrist. And the report that was given to the court was that yes, she was indeed insane. So Anjette is sent to the hospital for the mentally insane, where she spends the rest of her life until 1977, when she dies of heart attack at the age of 52. And that's gonna do it, guys. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you all in the next story.